Hello guys. So in this tutorial I'm gonna show you how to make let's call this feature a background NPC scenario. So basically it's an NPC who walks a specific route, and when it reaches the checkpoint it's gonna play animation and say some line. So my current implementation is the following. NPC is driven with the help of state machine. NPC is derived from the base character class. The route is defined with the number of points to place in the level. Those points are simple actors with the gameplay tag. My NPC has the array of those tags, and the order of this array defines which checkpoint it's gonna reach the first. Also, for every point in this array, I also have some extra information. It's the array of animations and lines to play and say. So the first thing is to enable a state tree plugin. For this, open up your plugins and look for state tree and gameplay state tree. Select both checkboxes and then reload the editor. So now let's create two data structures. The first one is a root storyline. It contains of three variables: animation, storyline, and storyline display time. So the type of variables you see on your own. It's animation montage, text, and float. The other one is root scenario. We have the root point ID, which is gameplay tag, root storyline, it's the array of the data structure we created seconds ago, and boolean random storyline. The next one is to make the root point. So as you can see, it's simple blueprint derived from an actor class. We need to add variable called root point ID. So the type is gameplay tag, and also make sure to select instance editable checkbox. So then you can see this option in the world outliner. You may also see that I don't have any primitive data. So for better readability on the level, I've added a text render component. And here on the construction script, I extract the name of my gameplay tag, convert it to the text, and use the setText function, make it visible. Something like this. npc.ai.petrol.root_001. Before moving to our NPC, first we need to make a state tree asset. For this, in your content browser, press right mouse button, select Artificial Intelligence, and choose State Tree. In this tutorial, I also cover one specific case. It's not necessary part, but for those of you who want to get most of this tutorial, you should probably stick to it. So, let's say that NPC is in the middle of the cycle, where he plays animation or is telling story. Then some action happens and he's been interrupted. You need to know how to handle this. So I highly recommend to follow two my previous tutorials. The one is point and click interaction. The other one is storytelling and quest system, because they gonna help you to know what to do next. So NPC. As you may see, it's a simple blueprint that is derived from the character class. The reason's kinda obvious, so I need to have character movement component, because it has a lot of states. For instance, if I want my NPC to jump. Also make sure that you have the navigation mesh volume set on your level, otherwise your NPC simply won't move. Now I want you to listen and watch my actions very closely, because not everything that you see on the screen you should replicate. So the first one is to add a state tree component. So simply press add key and look for state. Then we need to provide the state tree asset that we made earlier here on the right. Now we need to add the UI stuff. It's the widget that we're gonna use for displaying our NPC's speech. So right now you should just create the empty widget. We're gonna fill it further in this tutorial. So mine looks like this. World storyline. Just make the empty canvas and then we should return back to NPC. Once you've done this, provide the reference to your newly created widget here on the right to the widget class. The layouts and visual stuff is up to you. And one more thing is to add here on the left custom variable called root scenario. It's the array of our main data structure, root scenario. Also make sure to select instance editable so you can modify this variable through the world outliner like this. Root scenario, I have 3 entries. So the first one was this tag, storyline. Here you may see my animation montage, storyline and story display time. So guys, the next step is to build communication between NPC and the widget. For this you need to create the interface. So open up your content browser, press right mouse button, select blueprint and blueprint interface. After this you need to make a function, a domain called update world storyline, and provide 2 inputs. So it's incoming text and display time. Then go back to the widget, select class settings, and here in the top left corner scroll until you find the implemented interfaces category. Press add button and find your newly created interface. Once you've done this, here at the top left corner you may see under the interfaces your interface actions. I'm going to delete mine, so then I can re-implement it one more time. Select your event, press right mouse button and go with the implement event. Beside the canvas panel, I do have 2 more widgets. It's the border and the child of it, the rich text. You may go with a simple text instead, because it's not necessary at all. So as you can see, the anchor is at the center of our screen. I also have an animation for the fading out cases. What it does is simply change the opacity of my border. So as you can see, I start with the opacity of 0, and at the end of animation, it's gonna be 1. As for the graph part of this widget, first we need to implement the onConstruct event logic. As you know, by default the widget is visible, and all visibility updates come from this interface call. As the text isn't updated yet, we should hide it. Now we need to implement 2 more custom events, one for the show and one for the hide text. The flow of the widget is kinda simple. Once the text is being updated, it should be visible on our screen, and after some period of time it should be hidden. So then we set our text, we play animation forward. This logic is sort of delay, but in this particular case delay can break up the flow, so I use timer instead. Then hide text event fires, and we need to play animation backwards or reverse. This condition and this condition handles the interruption phase of our feature. So if you don't have it, you simply go just by using show text instead. So check everything one more time. Now we need to create state tree tasks. We need 2 of them, one for the find root point, the other one reach root point. For this, in your content browser, press right mouse button and select Blueprint class. Fill in state and choose the last one, which is called State 3 Task Blueprint Base. After this, we need to open each of them and first provide the input and output variables. So the input root scenario is the array of our main data structure. Make sure it's instance editable and the category is input. As for our output, it's the array of our root points and the category output. You also need to make our custom variables that we're going to use for our logic further in this tutorial. So it's going to be current root point, so it's the root point but a single variable. Current root point ID is the gameplay tag, and root point index is the integer. Next task. So input root points, the array of root point. Root scenario, array of the main data structure. AI pawn, it's a simple actor. Also we need to have NPC, and it's the reference for our NPC base class. Selected to reach point, so it's the BP root point. Root point index, our integer. Root storyline list, the array of our main data structure. Boolean for random storyline. Storyline index integer. Selected random storyline, it's the storyline but a single data structure. Current montage to play, it's the animation montage. And another boolean interrupt montage, in case you have the interruption phase. Now let's build up our state 3 component. So first of all, we need to provide the proper context actor class. By default it's gonna be empty, so we need to look for NPC base. All variables that comes from this context actor gonna be exposed and can be used here in this state 3 component. Now we need to add two states, and to make one of them the child, we should simply drag one of them and put on the top of the other one, so like this. Now we select the first one, name can be any, then we should add the task. If you've done everything correctly, you can expand the task and see the input and output variables. By default, this binding doesn't exist, so you need to provide it yourself. So expand this, select our actor and select root scenario. We also need to expand the transitions, and on the stage complete, you should select the reach root point stage, this one. Same goes with this task, and we need to provide the following variables also. So we remove the bindings and we provide them like this. This, and this. And on the transition we should go back to our root. Well guys, now let's build up the flow for the find root point task. So on the enter state, first of all I gather actors of class, and the class is root point. So it's this and this actor. Next I iterate also over all the data that I get from each NPC. So let's say this guy. Here on the right you may see that it has entrances 0, 1 and 2. And if you notice that the first and the third entrances are the same root point. But if we expand each of them, you may see that they all store different data. So it means that if this guy goes from point A to point B and then back to point A, each time he interacts with the point A, he's gonna play different montage and say different lines. So after this, we check on the following condition whether NPC's point ID is the same of the root point ID. And if it's so, we should build up the root. So it's the array of root points that we should access during our gameplay. So, reach root point task. First of all, I'm gonna explain the main parts of this blueprint. Next, I'm gonna explain the interruption phase of the feature. Here we need to pay attention mostly on 3 events. It's the enter state, tick, and the reset cycle check. On enter state, we need to store reference to our NPC. This cast can be pure. On tick event, this condition should be checked every frame. We check whether our current root point is inside the root point array. Everything that happens next should be executed only once, so for this I use the once node. Next I store few references, so I can use the cached version of them further in this blueprint. You may also think of this as the visual sugar for the blueprint to look tidy and clean. Next I need to move my NPC towards the selected reach point, so for this I use AI move 2. This logic is optional. We decide whether we want our NPC to turn towards the selected reach point. The next condition, random storyline. Here we have several entries, and if this checkbox is selected, we need to play the random one. You may skip this part because it's for the interruption phase, and simply continue further. Then we play montage, and on the blend out stage, we need to call reset cycle checks custom event with the false statement. So, here what's gonna happen. We're gonna increase the root point index counter and then reset the do once node. So we simply move from our current reach point to another point. This check gonna be executed and then do once gonna be executed one more time. Also, don't forget to update the widget. So we need to make the interface call with the function update world storyline and provide the following data. If this condition fails, the next one, this one is a must. So it means that we need to play all entries of this array, one after another. After play montage, on the blend out stage, we have another counter. We increase the storyline index, and then we go back to this condition and check whether we are in the bounds of the root storyline list. Until we are at the end of it, we're gonna play animation one after another, and we also update the widget. But once this condition fails, we also need to call reset cycle check with a false statement and move from our current reach point to another one. Next condition here. If the root point index is higher than our last index of the root, it means that the false condition here gonna happen and we end with our scenario. So this part is logic is empty and it's up to you to decide what to do next. Also make sure that inside your animation blueprint you do have the default slot, because otherwise play montage simply won't work. So for this, press right mouse button and look for slot default, connected between the state machine and the output pose. So interruption may happen during different actions, and I'm gonna explain it with the help of my point and click storytelling features. So in the demo that you will see just in a few seconds, you may notice that once my character tries to interact with an NPC, the background scenario of NPC should pause and the new widget will appear on our screen. So it looks like this. My storytelling feature has two events, begin and end story. To make interruption happen, we need to create two dispatches and call them both in the begin and end story. Next, we need to make subscriptions inside our reach root point task, so we can listen to those events, and once they are fired, we can pause our background scenario and resume it once we need it. As for point and click event, you may see that once perform action happens, I have a reference to my storytelling component, and I call the begin story function with the inputs of the story owner, and the story owner is self. It means our NPC. Storytelling component here, in the begin story, we store story owner as current story owner, so we can use this cache version of this variable next in the finish story function. Here on the left you may see that I have two dispatches, on story begin and on story finish. Here on the right you may see that I have custom pin, its actor and the name of instigator, both of them. On the begin story we need to make a call to this dispatcher and provide the current story owner as the instigator. Same goes with the finish story, like this. Now back to the reach root point task, and on enter state we need to make binds to those events. My storytelling component is stored inside the player controller, so with the help of this logic I have a reference to it. Next we need to create two more custom events. The one is called interrupt cycle. Make sure that it has the custom input of an actor, and the resume cycle with the same layout. Next we need to create event and provide the proper custom event with the proper signature, here and here. Custom event interrupt cycle. Here we need to check whether the instigator equals our NPC. It means that we trying to interrupt a particular NPC, not all of them. If condition is true, then we need to stop NPC from any movement. We need to stop it from playing montage. Next I have sequence. If this interruption happens while the montage being played, we also need to make the interface call to our widget and update it with the following data. So the incoming text should be empty. It means that we should hide the widget. This part of logic is optional, so we decide whether we want our NPC to turn towards our character. And the resume cycle. So the same condition, so we need to stop interruption on a particular NPC and continue with the background scenario. If this one happens during the montage, we need to increase the storyline index and reset the interruption montage boolean variable. Then we call the reset cycle check with the positive statement. So we need to skip the index increment. It means that we gonna resume our cycle with the next animation or the next stage, but not with the next point. If this condition is false, we just need to reset the storyline index to be 0. This one is needed for the random storyline stage. It happens here. So please add it to your graph. Now I'm gonna show the whole graph one more time, and it's the end of the tutorial. So guys, I hope you like this tutorial. I'm gonna place the sample project of it on my Patreon, so you can get it via the subscription. And as always, please subscribe to my channel, leave your feedback. As I said, I do have Patreon page. The link is under this video, so you can follow me there and help me monetarily. And see you soon, guys.